I mentioned yesterday, we had the bittersweet beginning of Divrei Hayamim Bet, the second book of Chronicles. Shlomo had a very straightforward and simple entrance as king, no complexities like we have in the book of Shmuel and the beginning of the book of Melachim. And we're in his reign, and he's in charge, and God is with him, and God has given him everything. And at the last verse of the first chapter was, then Shlomo said we should build the house of God. And it continues with that. Vayispor Shlomo 70,000 ish saval u80,000 ish chotzev bahar umenatzchim aleim 3,600. So Shlomo mustered 70,000 basket carriers, 80,000 quarriers in the hills, and 3,600 men as the supervisors. Sounds like the better job. Vayishlach Shlomo el Huram melech Tzor, in the big book of Shmuel Melachim, he's usually identified as Hiram, but a long yud makes a short vav or something. Kasher asitim David aviv atishlach lo arizim livnot lo vayit lashevet bo. And so Shlomo sends a message to the king of Tyre, and he said, in view of what you did for my father David in sending him cedars to build a palace to dwell in, Hine ani voneh bayit l'shem Adonai Elohai laktish lo laktir lefanav k'toret samim u'marechet tamid v'olot lavoker v'la'erev l'shabbatot v'lechadoshim u'lemoadei Adonai Eloheinu l'olam zot al Yisrael. I intend to build a house for God, and I will dedicate it to him in order to have sacrifices, incense offering, and sweet spices, regular rows of bread in the morning, in the evening, on Shabbos, on Rosh Chodesh, on festivals, as is Israel's eternal responsibility. La'olam zot. V'habayit asher ani voneh, we're in verse 4, Pasuk Daled, Gadol, ki gadol Eloheinu mikol Elohim. And this is going to be a big house, because our God is a big God, greater than all of the other gods. Umi atzor koach levlot lo vayit ki hashamayim ushmei hashamayim lo yichal keluhu. Umi ani asher avneh lo vayit ki im laktir lefanav. And because our God is so great, greater than all the other gods, who really could build a house for him? Even the heavens of the heavens, the uttermost of the heavens, could not contain him. And who am I that I should build a house for him, except as a place for bringing offerings, right? It's not really going to house him. We're calling it a house, but it's that's the language that humans use. God is not going to live in this house. It's more, it seems to be what Shlomo's saying here, is it's more for us to bring offerings to him in order to communicate and come into contact with him. So send me a craftsman to work in gold and silver and bronze and iron and purple and crimson and blue yarn, and who knows how to engrave alongside the craftsmen I have here in Judah, in Jerusalem, whom my father David provided. Right? So send people. We have all the gold, all the silver, we have everything that we need. My father has prepared for it. And again, this is, we talked about one of the great differences between this book and the book of Shmuel. In the book of Shmuel, David is just told he can't build the temple. In this book, he's told he can't build the temple, and he does everything but build. He makes a huge collection. There's Nadiv Lev. There are many people who are willing to donate, and he gets the worker. He gets most of the things ready. And so now he says, David, my father, has prepared everything. And therefore, Ushlach li atzei arazim broshim va'al gumim. So send me cedar, cypress, algum wood from Lebanon, because I know your servants are skilled at cutting the trees, and my servants will work with yours. I will send people to you as well. And prepare for me great timber, great, large, right? Get me some sequoias or some American redwoods or California redwoods, because the house that I build will be a wonder. It will be incredible. V'nei lachotfim lechortei ha'etzim natati chitim makot lavadech korim asrim elef usorim korim esrim aleph v'yayin batim esrim elef v'shem batim esrim elef. And I've allocated for your servants the woodcutters who fell the trees, 20,000 core of crushed wheat, 20,000 core of barley, 20,000 bath of wine, 20,000 bath of oil. Right? They're going to have things to sustain them. Perhaps this is even not just to sustain them, but as a payment. This is how he's going to pay them, not in dollars and cents, but with these with these items, and a core obviously is a measurement as to how much the Shlomo has placed aside for them. ויאמר חורם מלך צור בכתב וישלח אל שלמה באהבת אדוני את עמו נתנך אליהם מלך. Huram sends to Shlomo with a message saying, because God loved his people, he made you king over them. ויאמר חורם ברוך אדוני אלוהי ישראל אשר עשה את השמיים ואת הארץ אשר נתן לדוד המלך בן חכם יודע שכל ובינה אשר יבנה בית לאדוני ובית למלכותו. And Huram, what does he say? Blesses the God of Israel who made the heavens and the earth and gave to King David a wise son, one who has intelligence, one who has analysis and understanding to build a house for God. V'ata shalachti ish chacham yodea bina lechuram avi. So now I'm sending you a skillful and intelligent man, my master Huram. Right? So is this the Huram is sending Huram? Not clear, but okay. Ben Isha min benot Dan va'aviv ish tzori. יודע לעשות בזהב ובכסף ונחוש וברזל באבנים וביצים בארגמן בתכלת ובעבוץ ובכרמיל ולפתח כל פיתוח לחשוב כל מחשבות אשר נתן לו עם עם חכמך וחכמי אדוני דוד עבדך. Who am I going to send to you? He's a person who his mother is an Israelite, is from the daughters of Dan, who were a northern tribe. Dan moved up to the north back in the book of Shoftim, which of course can be closer to Lebanon. And she married a man who's from Tzor, and he has incredible amounts of artistic abilities. He can work with gold and silver and bronze and iron and precious stones and wood and purple, blue and crimson yarn and fine linen and engraving, design, whatever will be required of him, alongside your craftsmen and my craftsmen of my Lord your father David, right? So this is going to be somebody. He's not just a painter. He's a painter. He's a sculptor. He's a silversmith. He's a goldsmith. He's a knitting expert, etc., etc. As in regards to the wheat, the barley, the oil, the wine, which you mentioned, let him send them to his servants. Raf Sodot al Yam Yafo, Viata Tale Otam Yerushalayim. And we'll cut down all the trees, many as you need in Lebanon, and we'll send them on rafts. Here we have the word Raf Sodot, which sounds a lot like the English, rafts by sea to Yafo. It's going to go into the Mediterranean. You'll get them in Yafo, and then it's your responsibility to bring them to Jerusalem. Vayspor Shlomo kol anashim hagerim asher beretz Yisrael acharei hasfar asher svaram David Aviv vayimsa 150,000 و3,600. Shlomo took a census of all the aliens, all of the non-Jews, the Gerim, who were in Israel, and this was besides the census had already been done by his father, and there were found to be 153,600 of them. And the earlier count that we saw. So does he do it again? Has he done it already before? Is it just telling us again? 70,000 basket carriers, 80,000 quarriers, 3,600 supervisors to see the work that would need to be done. This is what Shlomo does at this time in order to prepare for the Beit HaMikdash. And much like we talked about in the past, let's just for a moment talk about the comparisons. This is really compared. This chapter is the chapter we're told to it early in the book of Melachim in chapter 5. And here Shlomo context Hiram or Huram, talk about the temple plans. There we have Hiram congratulating Shlomo, and they form a treaty. In that book, Hiram is the one who initiates the contact. And talk a little bit perhaps back then if Shlomo was not on his way, he was doing other things, and it's only sort of Hiram who contacts him that then he says, yes, let's build the temple. That's not the way it's going to be in this book, where Shlomo and David are much more spiritual leaders. And so here Shlomo is the one who contacts Hiram. We talk about this, the temple's spiritual purposes here, right? The heavens cannot contain God, right? It's just for his name. It's just an idea. It's just so we can contact. We don't have any of that there. There's much more again. the theological framing. David much more as the sort of high priest, as a spiritual person, not as the master warrior as well. Here it talks about sort of the details of what the temple is for: the incense, the bread of the showbread, the burnt offerings for daily, for Shabbat, for the Yomim Tovim. We don't have that. Right here, we're talking about the worship functions, and related again to what we talked about. This is Divrei Hayamim. This is the Second Temple era book. We're talking about how from the get-go, all those 1,000 years ago, or whatever it is, not that long, 600-700 years ago, when Shlomo built the temple, the significance of having these things, and we are continuing them today. It's really giving, I would think, inspiring and challenging the people of the Second Temple period. Look at what you're doing. This is our long-term. This is our long temple, which these things have been done from the get-go. We have, more details in terms of what is going to be traded. It's not, it's similar, but it's not as detailed. And here's maybe in many ways the key. Here we have the 153,600 foreign laborers. They are Gerim. They are foreigners who are living in Israel. It's very, very, we saw yesterday, prosperous time. Talked about that. The gold and silver in Israel was like regular rocks and stones. The economy was great. And back in the book of Melachim, it talks about 30,000 workers from Bnei Israel who had to go up for months at a time to chop down the trees. And we have here, don't know if we talked about it in details, but what happens early in the book of Melachim, it doesn't make Shlomo look so great. We have the same word misim, forced labor, taxes, that's used by Shlomo is the same word that's used by Paro. Back in Egypt, Shlomo marries Pharaoh's daughter as his first wife that were mentioned in the book of Melachim. He sends his people to be avadim with misim. He gives them a tax. They have to go for months at a time to work. We don't present Shlomo in that way. You have to read a little bit between the lines to see the comparisons there in the book of Melachim. It's not so obvious and apparent, but when you look at it and you see the comparisons, you say it's not really making Shlomo look so good when the same language, the same words are being used as Paro, who enslaved the Jewish people. We don't have any of that here. It's the people who had to do the hard work are not Jews. And so here, right, like we said before, with David, we have a much more idealized temple story, right? Shlomo is pure. He's God-focused. It's about God. Shlomo is very much a person about, with a very healthy sense of self, we'll say, back in the book of Melachim. We haven't seen that yet. And right, it's much more religious is the big aspects of it, and why the temple is being built. And again, it's coming from Shlomo and not from Hiram. So it's making Shlomo look better, presented better in terms of the way he makes contact with them rather than the other way around, and presents them in a definitely a much more religious light. And again, it goes with the changes that we have, a different perspective on the history that's being shared here in Divrei Hayamim.